Good morning. This section is about the module of Grammar 2, Semester 2, and it is about gerunds and infinitives. The outline of the section is as follows. We will start with an introduction, defining what gerunds, what we mean by a gerund and an infinitive. Then we will focus on verbs that are followed by gerunds, then verbs that are followed by infinitives. The fourth section will deal with infinitives with objects, then verbs that are followed by either a gerund or infinitive, and then gerunds used as object of preposition. A gerund is an ing form of a verb used as a noun. This is very important. Now let's focus on what we mean by the ing part. We are talking about a form of a verb that ends in ing, but it is not the main verb of the sentence. So verbs that are conjugated in the progressive, for example, I am explaining. Explaining here is not a gerund. It's not considered a gerund because a gerund is not the main verb of the sentence, which means the ing form, and this is very important, it is a form of verb, but it is used as a noun. So a gerund is used in the same way the noun is used in a sentence, which means it can be used as a subject, it can be used as an object. But I'm repeating, it's not the main verb of the sentence, it is used as a noun. Look at the following example. Reading is beneficial. Now in this sentence, reading is a gerund. Now notice here that verb to be is the main verb of the sentence. So where is the subject? The subject is reading. So it is used as the subject of the sentence. It is used as a noun. Another example, I enjoy reading. Now if you look again at reading, we already have a verb in the sentence. The main verb is enjoy. Then it's followed by reading, which is a gerund. And here it is a gerund that is used as the object of the verb enjoy. I is the subject, enjoy is the verb. I enjoy what? I enjoy reading. So reading is the direct object of the verb enjoy. Look at the following example. He is excited about singing. Now, if we look at the sentence again, we have a subject, we have verb to be as the main verb of the sentence, then we have an adjective and a preposition, and then we have singing. And here, singing is a gerund that is used as the object of the preposition, because we have the preposition about, then singing is the object of the preposition. That's why we said earlier that a gerund is an ing form of a verb that is used as a noun. It can be used as a subject, it can be used as an object, a direct object, or an object of preposition. Now let's look at what we mean by an infinitive. So an infinitive is to plus the simple form of a verb. For example, we have to see, to be, to go. Again, an infinitive is not the main verb of the sentence, it is just another part of the sentence. Now, like gerunds, infinitives can be used as the subject of the sentence or as the object in the same way that we saw with the gerunds. Now, let's look at an example. To relax is important for your health. If you look at this sentence, we have verb to be as the main verb of the sentence, then we have to relax as the subject of the sentence. To relax is an infinitive used as the subject of this sentence. Let's look at another example. I like to travel. If you look at the sentence again, we have the subject, we have the main verb like, and we have to travel, which is an infinitive used as the direct object of the verb like. I like what? I like to travel. It's like when you say, it's the same thing when you say I like music. I like books. So nouns are used as direct objects of the verb like. Here, to travel is used as in the same way as a noun is used. Here it is used as a direct object. As you can see, to travel is the object of the verb like. Now, before we move to the following section, in English, when we have two verbs that are used one after the other, the second verb is put into two forms. It can be a gerund, it can be an infinitive. How do we determine, what determines whether we use a gerund or an infinitive? What determines this is the verb that we have in the sentence. There are some verbs in English that are always followed by a gerund. There are other verbs that are always followed by an infinitive, and there are verbs that can be followed by either a gerund or an infinitive. Let's look now at the verbs that are followed by a gerund. Look at this sentence, and I enjoy reading. So if we look at the sentence, we have the subject, we have the verb enjoy, and we have reading. So what determines the form of what we have here? What determines whether it is an infinitive or a gerund is the verb enjoy. The verb enjoy is one of the verbs that are followed by a gerund. So here we can have that gerunds can be used as objects of certain verbs, and in the example the verb enjoy is followed by a gerund, which is reading. I enjoy reading. And enjoy cannot be followed by an infinitive, which means what determines whether I have here a gerund or not is the verb enjoy. And here what is interesting to know is, or what is important to know, is that I need to know which verbs are always followed by gerunds, or which verbs are always followed by infinitives or by either. And in this I will refer you to any grammar book that has a chapter on gerunds and infinitives, any grammar book that has any dictionary. At the end of the dictionary you find lists that are considered as extra materials that help the students, in the same way that you find lists of irregular verbs and so on. Then you find lists of verbs that are followed by gerund, followed by infinitive, or followed by either of them. Now you go there and you see the verbs that we are talking about. Now let's look at the verbs that are followed by infinitives. Look at this sentence. I hope to see you again soon. Again, we have a subject, then we have the main verb, hope, and we have an infinitive which is used immediately after the verb hope. Look at the second sentence. He promised to be here by 10. Again, we have a subject, we have the main verb of the sentence which is promised, and we have the infinitive immediately after the verb. He promised not to be late. Okay? Now again, we have the main verb here, and we have to be, but it is in the negative form. Notice that when we have not, it is used, it precedes the infinitive in the sentence. Hence, some verbs are followed immediately. Now we focus on the word immediately here, but we're going to use it in a minute, or we're going to see that sometimes we don't have an infinitive immediately after the verb in the sentence. It can be separated, or they can be separated by an object. But this is something that we will see in a minute. Here, negative form, as I said, the negative form, we have the adverb of negation not always precedes the infinitive, and this is how we make a sentence with the infinitive in the negative. He promised not to be late. Now let's look at infinitives with objects. As I said earlier, so we have two, when we talk about verbs that are followed by infinitives, we have two patterns. We have verb plus object plus infinitive, which means the verb and the infinitive are separated by an object. And we have, for example, let's look at an example here. He told me to be there at 8. Look at what we have here. This is the main verb, told. And this is the infinitive, to be. And they are separated by the object pronoun, me. The police ordered the driver to stop. Again, we have the verb ordered. We have the infinitive here. And between ordered and the infinitive, we have the driver, which is the object of the verb order. It's like the police ordered whom? Ordered the driver to stop. Then we separate the infinitive with an object pronoun. We separate the infinitive from the main verb with an object pronoun because it's very important for the meaning of the sentence. Now some verbs are followed by a pronoun or a noun object and then an infinitive. these verbs are followed immediately by an infinitive when they are used in the passive. Now, if you look at these sentences, number 1 and 2, they are in the active voice. So he told me to be there at 8, and the police ordered the driver to stop. If we put these sentences into the passive, look at what happens. I was told to be there. Now, there is nothing between the main verb and the verb to be, because the sentence is in the passive, and because obviously the object becomes takes the place of the subject in the sentence. The driver was ordered to stop. Again, there is nothing between verb to be and the main verb of the sentence. Now let's look at the difference, or at some verbs that can have both forms, that can have verb plus infinitive or verb plus object plus infinitive. So the two patterns are this: verb plus infinitive immediately, or verb plus object plus infinitive. Let's look at the examples. The first one, I expect to pass the test. Here, the meaning is, look at what we have here. The main verb is expect, followed immediately by infinitive. The meaning of this sentence is, I think I will pass the test. I think I will pass the test. Look at the second one. I expect Mary to pass the test. Look at what we have here. Between expect and to pass, which is the infinitive, we have an object, noun, a proper noun that functions as an object. Now, the meaning of this sentence is different from the previous one, because here I think Mary will pass the test. So there is a difference here. So when we have these verbs that can be followed by the infinitive directly or immediately, or can be followed by an object plus infinitive, we should be careful, because there is a difference in meaning between, because in the first sentence here, if you look at I expect to pass the test, we have two actions here. We have expecting and passing. Now, both actions here are done by the same subject. I am the one who expects, and I am the one who is going to pass the test. But in the second one here, I expect Mary to pass the test. Two actions again, expecting and passing. Expecting is done by the subject of the sentence, which is I, and passing is done by the Mary, which is here the agent, but it is the object of the first verb. Now, we said that some verbs are followed by gerunds. Other verbs are followed by infinitives. Now, some verbs are followed by either a gerund or an infinitive. Sometimes with no difference in meaning, but sometimes with a difference in meaning. Now, let's have a look at this. First, let's start with verb plus infinitive or gerund with a difference or with no difference in meaning. Now look at the sentence. It began to rain. It began raining. You can see that verb begin can be followed by an infinitive or a gerund. Another example, I started to work, and I started working. Now you can see again that verb start can be followed by an infinitive or can be followed by a gerund. Now here there is no difference in meaning between sentences 1 and 2 and between sentences 3 and 4. That's why we say that the verb begin is a verb that can be followed by a gerund or an infinitive with no difference in meaning. However, if the main verb is in the progressive form, an infinitive, not a gerund, is usually used. Look at the sentence. If we have it was beginning to rain, we cannot have the gerund here because we have the verb in the progressive form, and it could be awkward to have, or a little bit confusing to have two ing forms following each other. So what we have here is if the main verb is in the progressive, then we use an infinitive, even if the verb is a verb that can be followed by either an infinitive or a gerund. Now let's look now at verbs that can be followed by infinitive or a gerund, but with a difference in meaning. Some verbs may be followed by either an infinitive or a gerund, but the meaning is different. These verbs are, remember, the common ones are remember, forget, regret, stop, and try. We will focus on these verbs to show the difference, but of course in English there are other verbs, but these are the most common ones. Look at the first example. She always, now we take examples for verb remember. She always remembers to lock the door. As you can see here, we have the verb remember plus an infinitive. Now, when we use remember plus an infinitive, it means that, or we use it when we perform a responsibility, a duty, or a task. Which means here, locking the door is part of her responsibility. So that's why we have the infinitive. Compare this with this sentence. She remembers seeing the Alps for the first time. The sight was impressive. If you look at this, we have remember plus gerund. Now, it's not the same thing as remember plus infinitive, simply because when we have remember plus a gerund, it means that the meaning is remembering or recalling something that happened in the past. Even if in the sentence there is no indicator of the past, but we know, because we have verb remember plus the gerund, we know that we have the past, an action that happened in the past, and the subject is recalling this action. Let's look at the verb forget, which more or less has the same meaning as what we said before about the verb remember. If we use forget plus infinitive, then it means forget to perform a responsibility, duty, or task. Sam often forgets to lock the door. So locking the door is part of Sam's responsibility, but he forgets to do so. If you look at number 4, I will never forget seeing the Alps for the first time. Again, forget plus gerund means forget something that happened in the past. Something that happened in the past. And even if the past is not indicated in the sentence, but we know this because simply we have the verb forget plus a gerund. I will never forget seeing the Alps for the first time. Let's look at the verb regret, which is also a verb that can be followed by gerund or infinitive, but with the difference in meaning. Look at this sentence. I regret to tell you that you failed the test. Regret plus infinitive means regret to say or to inform someone of some bad news. When you want, this is the introduction in a way that you use before you convey some bad news to someone. So you say, I regret to tell you, I regret to say this, and so on. Look at the following example. I regret lending him some money. He never paid me back. We have here regret plus gerund, and here the meaning is that regret something again that happened in the past. I regret lending him some money, so we are talking about the action of lending in the past. Let's look at the verb try. Now look at the first example. I'm trying to learn English. When we use try plus infinitive, it means that the meaning is to make an effort. And the moment we say I'm trying to learn English, it means I'm putting lots of effort into learning English. Now look at number 8. The room was hot. I tried opening the window, but that didn't help. Try plus a gerund means to experiment with a new or different approach to see if it works. Now, whenever you have this, whenever you have try plus gerund, it means experimenting, and experimenting with something new or different, and most of the time there is the idea that it was done more than once, because you're trying to figure out whether it will work or not. Look at the following example. For stop. Stop is also a verb that can be used, but that can be followed by both a gerund and an infinitive. Look at the sentence here. The students stopped talking when the professor entered the room. Stopped talking. We have stop plus a gerund. Now, when we use stop in this way, what we mean is you stop doing an activity. You stop doing an activity. In the sentence, we have the students stopped talking. They were talking. Then they stopped. So the activity that was going on was stopped, and that's it. Look at the following example in which we have stop plus an infinitive. When she saw the professor in the hallway, she stopped to talk to him. Now, if you look at this, you will see that stop is used with an infinitive, and it means you stop an activity that you were doing in order to do something else. So she was walking, Then she saw the professor and she stopped. She stopped walking in order to talk to the professor. So whenever we have stop plus infinitive, it means that we were doing something, we stopped it in order to do something else. Now, sometimes it can be confusing and you're not sure which one to use. Is it, especially after stop, is it the infinitive or the gerund? Then if you would like to know whether it is stop something in order to do something else, in the sentence, change to with in order to. So here, for example, you can say, when she saw the professor in the hallway, she stopped in order to talk to him, in order to talk to him. And if it makes sense, then it is infinitive for purpose, and it is stopping something or stopping an activity in order to do something else. Now let's see how we can apply this in more examples in this exercise. Put the verbs between parentheses in gerund or infinitive form. Now look at the first example. I remember, we have the verb visit between parentheses, my grandparents when I was very young. If you look at this, so we have the verb remember, then we ask ourselves, what do we have here? It's the action of visiting. Grandparents when I was very young. So we're talking about the past, and we said if we talk about the past, we use the gerund. So I remember visiting my grandparents when I was very young. Look at the second example. What do you remember before you leave? So we have the verb do, before you leave for work every day. Now, before you leave for work every day, there are certain things that you do as part of your responsibility, as part of your tasks, things to check, parts of your duty. And we said that when we have this, then we use the infinitive. So the sentence is, what do you remember to do before you leave for work every day? If we look at number 3, we almost had a fire. Eric didn't remember. We have the verb turn off the oven before he went to bed. Now, if we look at this action of turning off the oven, it is part of what we do at home, part of our responsibility to check if, for example, the oven, the stove are off and so on. That's why here what we need is the infinitive. So Eric didn't remember to turn off the oven before he went to bed. For number 4, we have don't forget. We have verb do between parentheses, your homework tonight. Again, if we look at homework, it is part of your responsibility as a student. It is part of the tasks that you do maybe on a daily basis. That's why what we need is an infinitive. Don't forget to do your homework tonight. The following sentence, I will never forget, we have the verb watch, our team scoring the winning goal in the last seconds of the game. Now, if you look at the meaning of the sentence, again, when you do this, it is about the past, the action of scoring, the team scoring the winning goal. It's happened in the past, which means we need the gerund. I will never forget watching our team scoring the winning goal in the last seconds of the game. For number 6, I want to tell her to stop. We have verb talk so much. Now here, this is if you in this case, the speaker wants someone to stop doing something, doing the activity of talking. And we said that when we have this, when we would like to talk about stopping an activity altogether, we use the gerund. Then we have I want to tell her to stop talking so much. For number 7, I stopped on the way home. Verb get between parentheses, some groceries. So if you look at this sentence, I was on my way home, then I stopped that activity of going home in order to do something else, in order to get some groceries. Then we have infinitive. For number 8, I stopped the verb drink between parentheses, coffee at night, because it was keeping me awake. Now, if this happened, if coffee kept me awake at night, then I'm going to stop it at once. That's why what we need is the gerund. I stopped drinking coffee at night because it was keeping me awake. Now let's move to using the gerund, another use of gerund that we didn't talk about, which is using gerunds as objects of prepositions. And if you remember, we said at the beginning that a gerund can be used in the same way as a noun, it can be used as a subject, it can be used as an object. When we say that a gerund can be used as an object, it can be used as an object of a verb, and it can be used as an object of a preposition. That's what we have here. A gerund is frequently used as the object of a preposition. Let's look at the example. We talked about going on vacation. If you look at the sentence, the verb talked is the main verb of the sentence, but it is a verb that is followed by a preposition. Now, the moment we have here a preposition, automatically we have a gerund, because after prepositions in English, if we need a verb form, we use the gerund. Look at the following example. She is in charge of organizing the trip. Again, we have of, to be in charge. So the expression is to be in charge of. Then we have of is the last item here before the form of the verb. Then we need a gerund. I am interested in learning a new language. Again, interested is the preposition that we use with the adjective in is the preposition that we use with the adjective interested, and as such, it has to be followed by a gerund. Now, in this, we have concerning gerunds used as objects of preposition. We should be careful because there are some expressions that have to as part of them. Look at the sentence. I am used to working early in the morning. What we have here is the expression to be used to. So to here is part of the expression to be used to. So it's part of the expression. It's not to of infinitive. That's why it is also followed by a gerund, because to here is considered a preposition and not part of the infinitive. The same thing with the following sentence. I am accustomed to working early in the morning. Again, we have to, which is part of the expression to be accustomed to, and it's considered as preposition, and it's followed by a gerund. Then we have I look forward to meeting all of you. The same thing. To is part of the expression, and it is considered as preposition. Hence, to is a preposition, not part of an infinitive form, so it is followed by a gerund. Let's look at the same idea of gerunds used as objects of preposition. Look at this sentence. We talked about not going to the meeting. This is to focus on the negative form of a gerund when it is used as objects of preposition. Look at what we have here. In the negative form, not precedes a gerund. So we end up having the sentence. We talked about not going to the meeting. Whenever we have the adverb of negation not, it is used before the gerund.